All right, real talk. Something feels different about this team right now. You can just sense it. The way things went down lately, it's like the whole vibe inside the building shifted. And not everyone is talking about it openly yet. Some moves looked bold, some felt risky, but together, it kind of feels like there's a bigger plan unfolding behind the scenes. And if it hits, man, this team could surprise a lot of people this season. Now I gotta ask you, are you feeling this new direction, or are you still a little unsure about where this team is headed? Drop a SKOL in the comments if you're riding with it, and don't forget to hit that, like if you're all in for this season. Something unusual happened behind the scenes of the Minnesota Vikings 2026 NFL Draft. And if you weren't paying close attention, you might have missed just how deep this shift really goes. What looked like a standard draft on the surface may actually signal a major power change inside the organization, one that could shape the future of the franchise in ways fans are only beginning to understand. We're talking about a team operating in what insiders described as a transitional state, with longtime executive Rob Brzezinski stepping in as interim general manager. And yet, despite that uncertainty, the Vikings didn't hesitate. They acted with conviction, almost as if the decision-making power had already shifted elsewhere. According to reporting highlighted in the transcript, there were serious questions around the league about who was really calling the shots, and one name kept surfacing: Brian Flores. Multiple executives around the NFL reportedly felt this was a coach-heavy draft. That's not just a throwaway line, it's a loaded statement. It suggests that the coaching staff, not the front office, drove the vision. And if you look closely at the selections, that theory starts to hold weight. Instead of leaning heavily on analytics and traits, as had been the case in previous years, the Vikings appeared to prioritize proven college production and scheme fit. That's a philosophical shift. It's the kind of change you see when coaches, not analysts, are shaping the board. And here's where things get even more interesting. There's a growing belief that Flores didn't just influence this draft. He may have had a role in the departure of former GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. That's a bold claim, but when you connect the dots, it starts to make sense. Reports suggest there had been tension between Flores and the front office, especially regarding personnel decisions that didn't align with his defensive vision. Think back to last offseason. Flores reportedly wanted defensive reinforcements that would allow his system to generate pressure with 4 linemen. The team responded by bringing in players like Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen. Solid names, but not necessarily ideal fits for Flores' scheme. That disconnect may have planted the seeds for what came next. Even in the 2025 draft, decisions like passing on defensive standouts in favor of other positions may have frustrated Flores further. And yet, despite those challenges, his defense still performed at a high level. In fact, there's a strong argument that the Vikings' 9-8 record last season was largely due to Flores' side of the ball delivering when it mattered most. That kind of performance gives a coach leverage, and Flores seems to have used it. Now fast forward to this draft, and you see a class that feels tailor-made for his system. From the first-round selection of defensive tackle Cale Banks, a high-upside player despite concerns over multiple foot surgeries, to the addition of linebacker Jake Gold, who scouts believe can contribute immediately. The defensive identity is clear. Even the later picks reflect this mindset. Jacoby Thomas brings physicality to the secondary. Dominique Orange adds strength against the run. These aren't just random selections. They're pieces of a puzzle that fits Flores' blueprint. And while some analysts question the value of certain picks, like Thomas being projected as a later-round prospect, the Vikings doubled down on their evaluations. That confidence suggests alignment within the coaching staff, even if it raised eyebrows externally. Meanwhile, head coach Kevin O'Connell finds himself in a pivotal moment. He reportedly gave Flores significant influence in this draft, essentially backing his vision. But that decision comes with pressure. If the team struggles again, especially if the offense underperforms, O'Connell could find himself on the hot seat. Because, make no mistake, this is a defining year. If the Vikings can turn 3 or 4 of these draft picks into starters, the roster suddenly looks dangerous from top to bottom. The talent is there. The question is whether the new power structure can translate that talent into wins. And then there's another layer to this story that hasn't fully unfolded yet. A potential move that could reshape the offense entirely. A name that's been circulating inside the building, a player who could elevate the passing game to another level. But something is holding it up. We'll get into that next, because it might be the missing piece that ties this entire offseason together. For now, I want to hear from you. Do you believe Brian Flores is now the most influential voice in the Minnesota Vikings organization? Or is this just a temporary shift during a transitional phase? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation is just getting started. But now, here's where everything starts to connect, and why this entire situation might define not just the 2026 season, but the future direction of the Minnesota Vikings as a contender in the NFL. Because while the defense clearly received a massive injection of identity and purpose under Brian Flores, the offensive side of the ball is quietly sitting under a microscope. And that's where the pressure begins to shift toward Kevin O'Connell. Let's be very clear. This isn't just another season for O'Connell. This is a proving ground. After a 9-8 finish, the expectations internally are no longer about progress. They're about results. And if this team finds itself hovering around that same record again, especially if the offense is the reason they fall short, then serious questions will be asked about leadership, direction, and whether this coaching structure truly works long-term. And that's what makes the current situation so fascinating. Because while Flores appears to have gained influence and autonomy, especially after a draft that clearly reflects his defensive philosophy, O'Connell now carries the burden of making the offense match that same level of impact. He reportedly had a say in key decisions, including quarterback-related direction and skill position priorities. But ultimately, if the offense stalls, that responsibility falls squarely on him. And that brings us to one of the most intriguing unresolved storylines right now. Jauan Jennings. This is where things get a little strange. Jennings was in the building. He spent time with the organization across multiple days. All signs pointed toward a deal getting done. And yet, nothing. No contract. No official announcement. Just silence. That's not normal. Especially not when momentum seemed to be building toward what could be a major addition to this offense. So, what's going on? There are a few possibilities being floated. One is medical concerns, something that may have come up during evaluations that caused hesitation. Another is contract structure. Maybe the two sides aren't aligned on value, guarantees, or role expectations. And in situations like this, even small disagreements can delay what otherwise looks like a done deal. But here's why it matters so much. If the Vikings do finalize a deal with Jennings, they instantly create what many would argue is the most complete wide receiver trio in the NFL. Pairing him with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison would give Minnesota a combination of elite route running, explosiveness, and, this is key, physicality. Because that's what Jennings brings that this offense currently lacks. He's one of the best run-blocking wide receivers in the league. He thrives in contested situations. He adds a level of toughness that complements Jefferson and Addison perfectly. And in an offense that leans heavily on 11 personnel, his presence could fundamentally change how defenses approach Minnesota. Now imagine this scenario. You've got Jefferson drawing double coverage, Addison stretching the field, and Jennings working against third or even fourth corners, especially when T.J. Hockenson commands attention as a matchup nightmare. That's a recipe for consistent mismatches across the board. And it doesn't stop there. Add in pieces like Josh Oliver and rookie Max Bredesen contributing to the run game, and suddenly this offense doesn't just look explosive. It looks balanced, physical, difficult to defend over 4 quarters. But until that deal is signed, it's all potential. And that uncertainty is exactly why fans should be paying attention right now. Because the Vikings still have one open roster spot. That's not by accident. That's strategic. It could be reserved for Jennings, or it could signal another move entirely, possibly at edge rusher or another position of need. Either way, the front office, and more importantly, the coaching staff, is clearly being deliberate. And that brings us back full circle. This isn't just about a draft class. It's not just about one free agent. This is about a shift in how the Minnesota Vikings operate. A shift in power. A shift in philosophy. And, potentially, a shift in expectations moving forward. If Flores' vision translates into a dominant defense, and if O'Connell can elevate this offense to match it, then this team doesn't just compete. They become a serious problem in the NFC. But if it doesn't come together, then all of these decisions, from the draft to the coaching dynamics to the handling of key signings, will be reevaluated under a much harsher light. So now it's your turn. Would you sign Jawan Jennings and go all in on building the most complete wide receiver group in the league? Or do you think the Vikings should look elsewhere and use that final roster spot differently? Drop your take in the comments. Let's get this debate going. And if you want more inside breakdowns like this, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what comes next.